another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and P. Bush. How are you guys doing?
Struggling a little bit, man. It's tough here for brackets, but luckily we're all in the same boat. I don't think anybody had Princeton making the Sweet 16, man. Fairleigh Dickinson with their little run that came up short last night. Man, this has just been absolutely brutal. A lot of the teams that I think we had all, the Bamas, the Houstons, right? We kind of expected them to be where they are, but there's definitely been some shockers in this one.
I don't know, man. My brackets are looking beautiful, man. So in my home league, I am in the top 98% with Bama winning it, aka the consensus favorite, man. That's what I call go with the chalk pick bracket. And in my work league bracket, I'm in the top 99% with the UConn Huskies winning it all. So I'm feeling pretty damn good right now from what I've seen so far. Bama, obviously, game one, blowout, whatever. He took care of business. Mr. Brandon Miller didn't really show up. Game two, I'm like, okay, he's looking a little better because that game one, I didn't even think he played game one.
He didn't.
I think he had
running around.
Yeah, he was just running around as a decoy. So I got a little nervous. I'm like, maybe he got a little injury, man, hindering him. But nah, game two, he looked more like the prototypical self. This guy's going to be a top 5 pick next year, so I expect a lot more. And UConn Huskies, babe, I'm telling you right now, man. They got a guy that guard Hawkins, man. Looking a little like Jordan Poole out there chucking threes, man. That's what he reminds me of, like a cute little combo guard with the little handles, the jump shot, man, and the big fella. Woo! The big fella strong, man. 6'10", brute strength in the post, man.
No go, yeah.
Oh, man. That dude is great, man. The 1-2 punch, man, it is great to watch the Huskies play, man. They got two impressive victories. First half, pretty much 50-50. In the second half, they take over like a good team does. So I'm feeling real confident about the Huskies, man. But rest in peace, IU, man. Bet money on those guys, and they let me down again, man. I swear to God, it's an annual tradition. It's an annual tradition, man. I get my hopes up. I'm like, oh, I watched this game. Nice. Okay. Let's put some money in. Oh, they lose. Oh, first round. I'll bet on them. I'm like, okay. Let's bet on my hometown team. My team. Loser. It was embarrassing.
It was.
It was embarrassing.
They had a lead for maybe 2 minutes, and then they got too happy, and bad shots were taken, man. But hey, only positive shout. Jalen Hood-Schifino, man. I think he's the real deal. Solid player. Good
my question is, why don't they feed the big fella, man?
Yeah, I know.
He had 10 shots. He was 7
one of the best players in the country.
He was shooting 70%. He was getting to the free throw line like consistently. And the game plan was just really odd. They just like chucking.
It was a rough game to watch.
It was so disappointing. I don't even think Miami's that good. Like, just watch them. I don't think they're that good.
No.
That was an embarrassing loss by the IU.
Miami got beat by a Florida State team who did make the tournament and only won 9 games this year. So, like, that kind of shows you the up and down scenario of Miami's season. But listen, the tournament has been, have shown, I don't even know when the tournament started, but since the beginning of the tournament, since, I don't know, probably the early 90s, 80s, whatever, 70s, you always find a team that definitely was up and down during the season. And then they probably get bounced early in the conference tournament. Then all of a sudden they just go 4 or 5, and then they're in their Elite 8, Final 4. That's just kind of how it goes in the tournament. And this year, more than any time, I kind of had a feeling it was going to be a little bit of parity. But Matt Painter, that's his name for Purdue. Like
head coach, yeah.
He is a great regular season head coach. But when it comes to the tournament, he's got a lot of questions to ask. And I kind of almost say the same thing. I could almost kind of say the same thing about John Calipari, besides he has a championship with Anthony Davis, but his run in the tournament hasn't been the greatest either. So, this year, more than any, it's been, more so even keel, which is how the teams have played. So I wanted to ask the guys, what are their thoughts about the Sweet 16? We've gotten a breakdown of the brackets. Like I said, the Purdue debacle, Kentucky, that was tough to watch. But just wanted to see their the thoughts with some of the teams in the Sweet 16 and where they think they could see which teams they could see get to the Elite 8, Final 4, things of that nature. And people, I'm going to get you to start.
Well, first of all, man, got to shout out Tom March Izzo, man. This is his time. I think he's a perfect example, Sean, of what you were just talking about, where, they play relatively good in conference play during the year. They kind of falter a little bit during the Big Ten tournament. But, man, I think this guy just puts, as a head coach, he puts his team in such a bad situation on purpose at the beginning of the year. Michigan State always has some of the hardest out-of-conference schedule. They're always putting themselves up against Kansas, UNC. I know, got to take into account earlier in the year, UNC was extremely high in a lot of people's AP polls before they started faltering. So I think he forces them. And Zoo, I'm going to shout out Mr. Hansen here, our old stats teacher, giving us the whole, I'm going to make this class super hard for you. So when you get to the big moment, it's going to be a lot easier. That's exactly what Tom Izzo does with his team. And look, they show up, they play super hard. They absolutely shut down a top 3 offense in the country this year in Marquette, man. This team in Marquette was known for moving the ball extremely well. Kolek was running the offense. You know, they were a decent rebounding team, pretty good 3-point shooting. And they just could not get anything easy against this Michigan State team. And I think that's just the epitome of a Tom Izzo team. So they got a tough matchup against Kansas State, who just took down a worthy opponent in Kentucky, a team that was getting hot towards the end of the year. So that was a big win for Kansas State. I think this is kind of a pick'em game just based on the heat of these two teams and where they're at. But that's definitely a game I want to watch. And the other one, Zoo, Arkansas, UConn, man. I think we were just talking about it pre-podcast. It should be probably the best game, maybe up there with Gonzaga UCLA rematch too. Could be another good one. This Arkansas team, NBA heavy in their backcourt. They got some solid role players that could potentially also make the NBA. Big win coming off against the defending champs in Kansas. Obviously, Kansas lost some players year over year, but still, that team had a lot of experience when it came to March Madness. So that was a grinded out 1-point win, playing the free throw game at the end, and they closed it out. So then you look at your UConn team, Zoo. I know you already talked about them, man. The thing that surprised me the most, and maybe not a huge surprise, but man, when you're shooting 45% from 3 as a team in your first 2 games of the tournament,
they're on fire.
Oh my God. If you can keep that going, nobody's going to be able to stop you, even if you are playing relatively close and, you know, neck and neck in the first half. You know, one team's going to end up missing shots. And if you're making 45% from beyond the arc, Jesus, man, I don't think there's too much you can do, especially with the type of shots they're taking. Not just wide open gimmies in transition, man. Some of these are hand in the face, pull up 3, like you said, Jordan Poole style, man. So those are 2 games I'm definitely looking to watch. Obviously, still very high on Bama. I do think Houston could make a run too. So it just depends on Houston's part where Sasser's at with his potential injury. I know he was limited in the last game. So
yeah, for sure, man. Like, yeah, we got to talk about the greatest upset in NCAA history, man, because that's what it was. Because even going back to the first 116 upset a couple of years ago, back in 18 with that Virginia team, they were without DeAndre Hunter, their best player,
that's
NBA
true.
player. He was I think it was a top 10 pick. So that guy was a bona fide wing guy, and they did not have their best player, and they lost to a team. You're looking at this Purdue team, completely healthy. You got Zach Edey, man, looking like freaking Goliath down there, man, just towering over like these 6. Their entire roster is 6'3", 6'5" dudes. Like this is statistically the smallest team height-wise in the NCAA tournament. Like legit, they were running guards, and pretty much their way of counteracting the big is just fast break every time. And every time he had the ball down low, they swiping all crazy, man. The entire game plan on Purdue was very, very impressive from this guy who's a former D2 coach, and he jumped to D1. And obviously, he did a coaching performance against. This is a historical win, 63-58, locking down that Purdue offense. Obviously, with Zach Edey still had a good game. Like, he only got 11 shots. Like, he should have got 20 shots against this team, especially this roster, because you looking at the guards play, people were scared to shoot the 3-ball, man. I see guys pass up open threes, man. I saw nervous fingers, man. I saw nervous guards. Like, their guard play from Purdue, man, very, very embarrassing, man. I remember last week we were talking about this region, and we all agreed. We all agreed that Purdue, I don't know. And then they fall down. Fall down in the first. Like, legit. I'm like, you see the other ones, okay, it makes sense. But Purdue, man, there's not that much faith. Like, legit, everybody said this about Purdue, man, and turned out to be frauds, man. It's crazy because legitimately they were frauds. I don't know if it's choking. I don't know if it's the coaching under duress in the tournament, man. Like, I don't know what it is because Purdue has fallen to double-digit seeds multiple times in the past couple of years. Like, it's no longer just a fluke. It's a trend now that Purdue is just known for losing to lower seeds. So I got to shout out FDU for getting it done, man. Even second round, like, they put a matchup in. Like, it was a matchup. And it wasn't like the other game where the team got blown out by like 20 points to San Diego State. Like, FDU was putting in a matchup until the last 2 minutes until the FAU pulled away. So I got a shout outs to them for getting it done against the Purdue Boilermakers, man. That was a little.
That was a happy moment for one day, and then we watched.
That was a great day. I was like, you got the dub, man. Purdue got the loss. I was laughing my butt off. I was like, man. Oh, this is just beautiful, man.
It was a matchup nightmare, though, Zoo. Just real quick. I think it was really just they had never played against such a small team because the Big Ten. So, to quote Charles Barkley, man, you're just banging down low, right? With big guys, it's very physical in the Big Ten. And that's how it's always played. And the Big Ten always beats up on each other. And then you go and you play a team that's just run and gun with a bunch of guys under 6'4". They're triple teaming Edey, and he's obviously, as Edey, he's actually a very good playmaker. It's just that, like you said, he knew if I'm getting double team, triple team, somebody's open for three. But those guys were, taking a little pump fake maybe when they shouldn't have, a little step aside, or just trying to swing it because they saw that 16 seed just coming, going in their ear, and I think they got nervous too, to your point. So that was tough to watch, but I think Painter just had no idea what to do, and Edey is just kind of a one-man show there. If they had Ivy, it would have been a very different story.
For sure. And I got to point out this stat too. This stat I found out this past weekend, man. If you're a first seed or second seed in the March Madness tournament, but you are not ranked, like pre-AP polls before the game started, if you were unranked, those teams have never made the Final Four.
Interesting.
I saw that. So I was like, oh, I wish I knew that stat before I made my.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked Mark.
I wouldn't have picked Mark Everett for doing any of my brackets going far at all. That is a crazy stat because when you go pre-AP polls, that is strictly based on talent. That's on the eye test, your recruiting class, and that's projecting for talent. And obviously, they were a cute story, man. They outperformed the talent. They got 1 or 2 seeds, a.k.a. Marquette and Purdue. And I didn't know they were going to fall this early, but I never had those two teams as championship contenders based on my rankings and stuff. So, like, them falling this early, man, it's beautiful to watch, man. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
But keep that stat in mind because if this happens again in the future, definitely fade those teams if they're 1 or 2 seeds in the Final Four, because you got to get those Final Fours correct. So that is a stat to keep in mind for future brackets.
Don't forget UNC started the year number 1, though. So
that might have been the worst free fall.
Yeah,
that might have been the worst free fall. Yeah, and didn't even want to go to the NIT. They were just like, "Nah, we're good. We're good. We're North Carolina. We're not doing the NIT." You know what else is pretty glaring about Purdue? I think I saw this on CBS, but we always talk about NBA guys, and to your point, I think Matt Painter is, and in college you see this a lot, like coaches kind of form their teams and they kind of affect their teams more so than the NBA, with coaches, it's more so just about talent in NBA. But if you go look at like their starting lineup, even with, I think the Zach Edey guy, like he might have been like a low 4-star. The rest of the guys were like 2 and 3-star guys that got developed over time. And no matter how great you develop talent, usually that works when you have like a Jaden Ivey. Like you have a huge, you got to have the cluster number 1, like big time star. And then the rest of the guys can just be filler. Like that's kind of how that works. That's how the teams are able to lift each other up, or the team is able to lift each other up with different sums of their parts. But I thought that was real interesting because they showed the 16 seed, like there was non-rankings, which I understand. But like Purdue only had like a couple 3-stars and maybe 1 low 4-star. So it wasn't like they were enriched with talent. But I don't know. Painter's going to have to figure out. They're going to have to get NIL working or something to where they can get some bigger stars. I mean, I don't think Jaden Ivey's going there every year. So they're going to have to figure some things out. And I also think, too, with some of the Big Ten teams, they kind of just look like when matched up with other teams. Like, and I was talking about Miami earlier. Like, Miami was very up and down, even though their record was pretty good. They just look more explosive. Like the teams in the Big Ten, I don't know if it's a style of play. Like Michigan State maybe is an anomaly because they're able to, because you like said, they play tougher teams throughout the, like, I guess, beginning of the year. They just don't, like the teams just don't look as explosive. Like the guards in other conferences just look like they can get by the Big Ten guards. Now the bigs are bigger in the Big Ten, which I guess is why it's the Big Ten, but it's like the guard play just looks a little bit more elite in other conferences. So I'm feeling like, unless like you got like a Michigan State who usually gets their high cream of the crop in terms of just recruiting in Michigan sometimes, like, and Michigan didn't make the tournament this year. Some of the teams just look a little bit more explosive. And I just guess it was more glaring in that IU Miami game. But fast forward, I still feel really good about my Houston and Arkansas pick. Even though Houston gave me a real big time scare in their first game, maybe that was
no point guard, man. They looked really bad without Sasser that first game.
Yeah, they
really
did not look good. But we'll see. If I had to pick out of those two, I'd say I feel a little bit more confident about Arkansas. But I will say a team that, let me go back to my list, like that wouldn't surprise me if they got to the Final Four is Michigan State, because of that region. I think Michigan State could get to a Final Four because Izzo now in the Sweet 16. I feel like, I mean, all due respect to Kansas State, Rick Barnes is at Tennessee, FAU. Like Michigan, like that's FAU Michigan State, stop. And I think Tom Izzo, he's got the perfect combination of guards. He's got the perfect combination of big guys. His coaching experience, and now, like you said, I think most people were trying to see maybe this would be Michigan State Duke. It's not happening, and I think Zoo point he was making earlier, like if they face off with Tennessee, like hustle, Tennessee's got it. Defense, Tennessee's got it. Tenacity on the boards, Tennessee's got it. But if Tennessee gets down 10 points, that might be the game.
Yeah.
That might be the game, bro.
Could
like
start
if they get down 10
points,
it might be the game. Like, say, for instance, Michigan State jumps out to 13-4 lead. I don't know if Tennessee can come back because I just don't see the offensive firepower to will them into, a 3 or 4 point game with a couple minutes left in the second half. So, yeah, for me, that's kind of what I'm saying. The teams I'm feeling really good about is Michigan State, Arkansas, and Houston.
Yeah, so, Arkansas, man. Because beating Kansas, man, in the clutch, like that wasn't like a fluky. My good, that was really, really impressive.
That was a lot of toughness, yeah.
Like for sure, like Kansas, obviously going back as a number 1 seed after winning a championship and losing 2 pro players and coming back as a 1 seed, man. When they had them as a 1 seed, I faded Kansas, man. I'm just like going back to back is just impossible in NCAA, man. It is actually impossible because if you win a championship, you definitely have pro players. If you win a championship, those players are probably going to go pro because that's as peak as you get in college. So they brought back. There's still some like Grady Dick, man. This guy's potential like a maybe lottery pick. Man, he's a nice little player, man. I don't know if he's going to be that good, but he's a nice little player, man. He got this 20-point score. Like they had a good team. But man, Sean, you talking about Arkansas, man? Last week, I was like, oh man, I had that on my short list. I'm like, those guard play, those NBA guys, man, just smells a little like that UConn Shabazz Napier team, man. Just a little, man. Even last year, they had a really good run last year. Too people forget Arkansas made a really good run last year. So
almost beat Duke, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So they have a historical precedent of being a competitive team in the tournament. And you got these boys back, and my goodness, man, beating Kansas like that, I'm really, really impressed. And as a UConn supporter for this tournament, man, I am nervous. I am extremely, extremely nervous playing this Arkansas team. And my goodness, I'm going to sweat it out because I fear UCLA less.
Yeah.
Arkansas, man. I feel UConn play UCLA. I'm like, man, they didn't look that good against Northwestern.
They got one guy that's an NBA guy, but he kind of was very up and down.
Yeah. So Zags I'm like, yeah, UCLA, Zags. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, this Arkansas will be the matchup that will make or break my bracket right now. I'm nervous about this because I feel like Vegas odds going to be maybe like a 2 or 3 point spread. Like it's not going to be a big spread in favor of the UConn Huskies. So, man, Arkansas Razorbacks, man, that is a team I fear a lot right now. A lot.
You know nervous. What? We haven't shouted out this team either, man. 2 quality wins against pretty damn good teams is Princeton, man.
Oh,
knocking off Arizona, one of the hottest teams from 3 in the country.
Man, I feel like Arizona chokes every year.
Yeah, of course. I'm not saying to pick them to go to the national championship, but I mean, I had them getting knocked out.
Elite 8, yeah.
I think, yeah, or at least Sweet 16. And Mizzou, another team, man, got just banged around in the SEC tournament, but still kept themselves kind of in. They were very relevant this year. First time since I think that Phil Pressey team that was a 2 seed and lost to a 15 seed back in the mid 2010s. But Princeton, man, they were hitting their shots, man. And the thing is, they closed the game against Mizzou. I think Mizzou went on a 10-0 scoring run or something and bring it back. And then Princeton comes back, goes on their own 10-0 run to finish out the game and take the win. I think, a very winnable game against Creighton for Princeton, man. I'm not saying they're going to make it, not making the Elite 8, but if there's a low seed that I think has a chance, Princeton, because Creighton, if they're not hitting their threes, they can have a little bit of issues. I know they have the nice big guy, I think his name's Kalkbrenner. Said he had a nice game in the round of 32. But shout out to Princeton, man. 2 schools from New Jersey showing out in this tournament, man. Fairleigh Dickinson University, my grandfather's alma mater. Zoo, thank you for shouting them out earlier. And then Princeton, man. So love seeing a low seed make it run. This could be the Oral Roberts of this year.
Yeah, maybe that. And I got to shout out that Ryan Langborg, man. He had some moves. No, he got a bag, man. Like this brother on LinkedIn trying to get a real job, man. But on the courts, man, this dude dropping threes and crossovers, man. Like, god dang, he's making a splash that game.
He'll get a job anywhere he wants now.
Dude, seriously, I'm like, God, this dude is like the most average dude ever. But this dude dropping tray balls in the tournament. So yeah, there's always that. Yeah, there's a what?
Could you imagine that you're in an interview? Somebody asks you a question. So tell me something about yourself. Oh, yeah, I dropped 30 in the NCAA March Madness tournament. Boom, you're hired immediately.
Hired, man. Got the intangibles. Got the intangibles. Yeah, I got shout out to him because, man, he had some nice shots, man. Like Princeton tie, I've seen. Man, I didn't look at Princeton. I don't know, 15 seed, man. Come on. I don't even need to think about it.
Not at all.
Shout outs to them for getting upset, man. The beauty of these upsets is it ruins everybody's bracket. Exactly. So I'm all good. Doesn't affect my percentages, man. That's all that matters, man. That's all that matters. So I like a good little Cinderella story. They just can't win it all, man.
Yeah, exactly.
They just can't win it.
I don't want to see him in the finals.
Imagine.
Elite is where it stops. Yeah.
I think they're actually the first Ivy League team to ever make the Sweet 16. So they're a little history for themselves as well.
Oh, wow. Impressive. Yeah. Good for them. Good for them. But, man, Missouri Tigers.
Yeah, I need that. I need Princeton to stop and like I say, I think for me that's kind of my rule of thumb. Anytime it's like not even a double digit seed, because there's double digit seeded teams that are blue bloods that make it to the Final Four. But when you're the underdog, where you're a 15-16, and you're usually a team that's never there, I cause the chaos all you want to right around the Elite Eight. Like I don't want you infiltrating the Final Four, because then it's just like, more likely than not, once you get to the Final Four, it's going to be a blowout because that's usually most of the time it's chalk teams that get there and they're just going to do what they do. So it's real cool to see those teams.
A couple years ago. And honestly, I think you could actually argue that was Butler's first run too, right? That was kind of the first big team to really kind of cause
they went back to back.
And then they went back.
Yeah, they went back to the finals.
Back-to-back years?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but that first year that they did it with Jihei, man, they came this close to making that
bank shot,
the bank shot, man. Oh, that would have been probably the most epic championship.
That would have been.
Yeah. But Loyola rival
would have been on all the highlight reels.
Final Four.
For sure. Yeah.
So we don't need one of those. That's really all we're saying. No Princeton to the Final Four.
I'm good on that. And to be honest, the students they're not caring if they make the Final Four or not.
They're in the library, man.
They're just not even caring. Like you'll get a few alums probably showing up at the Final Four, but like current students, no, they're definitely not at the Final Four trying to.
It's midterm season, Sean. Come on.
Yeah. They got bigger things to worry about. So yeah, we'll keep our eyes glued to the Sweet 16, the Elite Eight, and give you updates on that. So transitioning into our last topic with the NBA. Only got a few more games to go, man. It's a race to the finish in the Western Conference, Eastern Conference with the play-in, the playoffs, playoff seeding, the jockeying up and down of the rankings. So, there's been a few teams that's had some slides. There's been a few teams that's also been on some winning streaks. And I thought this conversation would be interesting because these are kind of and all due, respect to Giannis, I think he's firmly in the MVP race as well. But, the conversation has been around Embiid and Jokic in their respective teams. So I kind of wanted to ask the guys, both teams haven't really had like the run to the finals as of late. So who could you see actually making a run to the finals with the 76ers in the Eastern Conference and the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference? And Zoo, I'm going to let you take this one.
Man, my preseason picks, man. I had the Philadelphia 76ers facing off the Milwaukee Bucks, who right now look like the best team in basketball right now.
And Milwaukee's cooking.
My good, it's like Giannis in the lineup or out of the lineup. Like Drew Holiday is probably having his best season ever.
Yep.
Best season ever. The dude offensively, usually that was his little weakness. But, man, this guy's been putting up 20-point games without Giannis in the lineup, man, as a true number one scorer. So him as a compliment with Giannis, that team is scary. I have them probably the favorite right now to win it all. But, man, these Sixers right now, they're cooking right now. If you look at the win-loss right now, they have a better record than the Denver Nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Denver Nuggets, obviously, they're on a huge slide right now. They lost I think they were like close to a 5-game losing streak. Like they had some really, really bad losses on the record, which is quite surprising because they were rolling too before that. But the Philadelphia 76ers had the same record as the Boston Celtics right now, and Boston started off red hot right now. Obviously, Boston Celtics regress because I've been saying Boston. I'm fading Boston this complete year. And right now they've been up and down this year, and now they're on the downtrend. Jason Tatum's been bricking a bunch of threes, man. Like, I'm fading Boston. Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid, my MVP pick. Oh, it's looking nice right now, man. It's looking nice right now. Vegas got Joel Embiid as the favorite to win MVP right now. Obviously, he's down to Joel, Big Joker, and Giannis. And that should be the list right there. Everybody else don't matter. You got Jokic with the analytics behind him because all the analytics says Jokic is number one. And pretty much, I would say, if you take Jokic off the Denver Nuggets, he impacts the team most offensively. Because offensively, he's the point center. He's legitimately their best rebounder and their best passer and their best scorer. So him offensively is insane. But defensively, he got a lot of weakness defensively. Like, legit, they have to create a whole system of rotation of helping out Jokic, man. Like, legit, if they go against Jokic, they got a double team got to come over. They got to have all these rotations to hide Jokic on defense. So, obviously, defensive-wise, he's a liability, man. He's an average, below average defender. He's between there. So, obviously, that's the weakness. But then you got Joel Embiid, man, having a career high in scoring, almost 33, 34 points a game. This dude, I'm going to vote. I want him to win Defensive Player of the Year because this dude is underrated as a defender, man. As a pure rim protector, he's the anchor. He's their best defender, and he's their best offensive player, and he's their go-to scorer this year. I'm like, this dude averaging 33, 34, and 10. He's putting up Shaq numbers right now.
Yeah, he is.
So I'm like, dude, Joel Embiid, and obviously the past 2 years, the brother was runner-up, man. And I'm predicting those voters, man. They're going to feel a little bad for you. For Mr. Embiid. Oh, yeah. They'll be like, yo, Embiid last year, man. He came in second. This year, maybe Embiid, maybe Joker. Giannis already got 2 MVPs, man. A little psychology going to go in there and vote the process to be MVP, baby. And I think it's the process's year, man. But the Milwaukee Bucks, that's going to be scary. But, man, they will put a match because I do like the matchup, too, against them, man. Like, Drew Holiday against James Harden, that's a little scary. That's a little scary having him as a perimeter. Like, if James Harden pulls a Casper the Goat on me, man, Casper the Ghost on me, and it disappears again, oh, it's over because they need a complimentary guy. Even Tyrese Maxey's putting up 20 a game right now. Inserting back in the starting line. So he's been bought. Tobias Harris have a nice little season as
I was just going to say that.
As a fourth option. So, like, George Niang shooting 3. So I'm like, that Sixers team is nice. Obviously, the Bucks, that's the behemoth right now. But if you get through them, man, if they make it to the finals, man, they could beat any team in the West. They could beat any team in the West because the West this year is surprisingly pathetic. Like, everybody is just in the same tier.
From like 3 to 12.
Yeah, legit. Like, it's great. Like, Sacramento got the second best record in the Western Conference. Sacramento, man. You got Memphis tied with Sacramento with the third seed, and they're without John Morant. Like, and they made it to the third seed, and then the rest from Phoenix to the Los Angeles Lakers. There's 3.5 games.
Yep.
Yes, crazy.
So they're all like
down to the
500, really. A little above 500, like level teams. So not really scared of those teams. So Denver Nuggets, this is your year to get it done. Your team's fully healthy. You don't really have any excuses because you guys are objectively you're having the best regular season. All the new teams are coming in, like Memphis is young, dealing with off-court troubles. Sacramento, first time in the playoffs. You got Phoenix Suns with KD injury. Chris Paul, 38 years old. You got the Clippers, obviously, load management. Kawhi Leonard again. You got Dallas Mavericks. Luka's injured right now. Kyrie Irving, foot injury, not playing, missing games. And you got Steph Curry trying to carry these bum-ass Warriors right now. Andrew Wiggins with off-court issues, can't play a game right now. Draymond Green, obviously, with the punch on Jordan Poole affecting his leadership ability this year. So the Golden State Warriors ain't full. Like, Oklahoma City, you might play Oklahoma City in the first round, man. You better sweep those boys, man. I love SGA. I love Sam Presti, who's the greatest GM I've ever seen in my life. You draft this dude, Jalen Williams, out of nowhere, and this dude's going to be like a two-way wing star. Like, I don't know how he keeps getting it done. So shout out to OKC, but no, you got to sweep OKC. Minnesota Timberwolves, Rudy, like, dude, all these teams have major Edwards flaws, or bust. Man. You got to get it done. Joker, if you got Jamal Murray healthy and Porter Jr. healthy, get it done. You got complimentary players and Aaron Gordon having his all-time season. KCP hitting threes. Get it done, Joker. But I'm going with the process this year, man. It's the process this year. Yeah, MVP, defensive player of the year, man. I'm taking Joel Embiid, baby. I'm taking Embiid.
Well, Zoo, I might have to say this, man. Is it the rise of the big man again in the NBA? It seems to be
It's
the
crazy,
trend.
man. If you look at the top 5 NBA players, power forward. Giannis is a power forward. Dude, at least three are prototypical bigs, and then you can maybe throw in maybe like a Luka or a Steph. But yeah, they're all bigs right now. It's actually in a guard league, man. That's what happens when bigs get some skill in their game.
Exactly. No, yeah. And I wanted to make sure that you shouted out Tobias Harris because I know he gets a lot of flack on this podcast for his contract.
Yeah. $35 million.
But he's been,
That's absurd.
I'm sorry. I'll still never not find that.
Shout out to his agent.
Yeah, there you go. But hey, man, he's been doing well for them. I think they need him to be the guy. Obviously, Maxey, I think, last year's playoffs got a little bit trigger happy there, kind of his first playoff run. Hopefully that can be a little bit more honed in this year. I agree with you, Zoo. I think the Sixers, if you were to, let's just say the Bucks weren't in there, right? And it was Sixers-Nuggets playoff, I got Sixers in 5. I think they're just the more complete team. MPJ, we all know what can happen with him. Jamal Murray, obviously an unbelievable talent, but after his injury, can still cause you some concern, right, coming off. So I'm looking at the East, man. I want to pick the Sixers because I do think they have the most scoring options. But with Drew Holiday oncoming and then Chris Middleton getting his feet underneath them, man, this Bucks team, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, they obviously need 100% healthy Giannis to be able to match up with Embiid. But I just can't put the Sixers past it. In a 7-game series, I have them facing off, man. I agree. I'm fading the Celtics. Celtics have kind of taken a little bit of a tumble. But the Sixers, man, they won 8 straight. They're getting hot at the perfect time. Let's hope they can continue to close it out for the rest of the year. And I do think that will be the Eastern Conference Finals matchup. I just see the West being so much more open that the Nuggets have a better chance to make it. But I still would say that whoever comes out of the East is probably winning the championship this year, whether that be the Sixers or the Bucks. Sorry. All I'll say is, man, if there's one team, if I'm the Nuggets, that I don't want to play against, it's the Sacramento Kings, man. I don't want to see them in a series. So
especially in the clutch.
Roy. So yeah,
especially the clutch.
We saw what De'Aaron Fox did to the Bulls last week. Come on, man. So you saw that. We were on the
I saw that game winner.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm not saying that. I think obviously the Kings' experience, right, is where a lot of people might have their hesitations with this team. But if you're looking at the experienced teams in the Western Conference, man, Grizzlies, not really there yet. Nuggets, okay, a little bit, but still not very much there yet. The Mavericks, injury issues. The Clippers probably have the best experience of any team that is at the top 6 in the Western Conference right now, especially with where the Suns are at with the whole CP3 and KD situation. So, the Kings are just a team that people might underestimate. And I know I've said this on previous podcasts, but that could be a team, just their run and gun mentality. They could tire out Jokic and get him, to your point. You got to hide him the whole game.
Yeah.
Just because of his defensive ability. You know how much the Kings run around to shoot threes, man?
A bunch of kids, man. They got all the energy,
They're
man.
Just
all that
fun.
Energy. Yeah.
They're having fun. So, I do think of all the teams, the Nuggets do still have a solid chance. They do have probably the most playoff experience of some of the younger, quote unquote, younger up and coming teams in the Western Conference. And with all the injuries, I do think it is their season to take that shot. Obviously, they can't really make too many more moves unless they're going to do some 10-day contracts or something like that. But I just don't see the Nuggets really winning it all this year. But I do think they have a better chance to make the finals, and that is single-handedly because of the Milwaukee Bucks, man. So I'm gonna pick the Nuggets here, but I could see the Sixers. I think that series with the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, if it comes to that, at least 6 games, probably going 7 though. And the other thing, quickly, the Nuggets suck on the road. I think they're 500 on the road compared to at home.
They're 500.
That's another big thing when it comes to the playoffs, man. I know they'll have home court advantage most of the time, unless the Kings kind of sneak up over the last stretch. But that could be a cause for concern as well, especially when you get to the NBA Finals, because the Bucks do have a better record, and the Sixers will likely also end up with a better record. So something to keep in mind.
Oh yeah, I forgot they do that in the finals with the better record thing.
Yep.
I don't know. I do think with the Nuggets, where I have a little bit of concern is Jamal Murray. Like, he's come back and he's been okay, but it's like as their second star, I kind of would want him to be a little bit more consistent. More so, like, he's the bona fide second option, which, I mean, theoretically he is, but I'm just talking about in terms of play. Because if I'm then having to depend on Michael Porter Jr., I like his skill set, but I just I can't envision him in a playoff game being like the guy that's going for 25 or 20 every game. I just can't see it. I feel like he's going to have a game where he has 28, And I feel like he's going to have a game where he has 14. And that's where I think Jamal needs to offset. But Jamal, and it's not his fault. He got injured, and I still think he's trying to, get his wheels back underneath him and become more of a consistent player. But depending on Jokic to be, the guy that's having to initiate all the offense, he can do that. But in a playoff series, if you got an attacking guard on the other side of the court, like say for instance, if like Zoo's point, they play OKC. First thing Shea's going to do is go straight for Jokic and try to get him in foul trouble and make him guard. And then you talk about the Kings. I'm kind of in the same boat of they haven't done anything, but Sabonis could have a field day. Like he could have a field day against Jokic guarding him. Now, Jokic is going to get his points, but I'm just saying I think that could even out. And watching the Kings this year, bro, if it comes to money time, they're automatic, bro. Like they are nice. I know they don't have the experience, and it may change the playoffs. They may get cold and be like, okay, we're actually a team that's never been here before. But you can't tell in the regular season. Like anytime it's a close game, De'Aaron is get out of my way. I'm gonna go off. Like he's so good in the clutch. That mid range, he's just quick into the lane. Whether it's a teardrop or a turnaround jumper, like he's just so good in the middle of the lane. Malik Monk, go get buckets. Love Kevin Huerter. So I think with the Nuggets is my concern is more so of I don't know if Jamal's going to be able to be that second option to bring along and help Jokic. Because I also think in the West, man, like I know all these teams are kind of in the middle of the road. But that just screams to me like anybody can be beaten. Like I don't see a number 1 seed, number 2 seed, number 3 seed in the West. I don't. I feel like there's a little bit of separation just because of record. But let's just say it's a big assumption if Wiggins comes back. But let's just say, they are in that play-in and then they somehow end up being the 8 seed, like the Golden State Warriors. If you're the Nuggets, you don't want to see that.
Golden State with Wiggins would be scary.
They don't want to see that. That would be very tough for Jokic and Jamal Murray and all them.
Steph Curry high pick and rolls with Jokic, man.
No, you just don't. Like I know, and to me, that series will probably go 7 because Golden State can't win on the road for some reason this year. I don't know why, but it's just weird. So it probably would go 7, and it would be Game 7 in Denver. So Denver might win that series, but I just feel like it's a lot of the teams in the West, basically 1 through 10. Like if everyone's healthy and gets all their players back, it's just the series can go either way. Versus the East, I do think it's going to be a knockdown drag out with the 76ers and the Celtics. And if Embiid keeps this play up, and then you have Harden just play at a not average but good level where he's injury-free, he's making decisions, he's making timely threes. If he plays at that level, you have Maxey coming on, and then Tobias as your fourth option that could get hot. I like their depth. I think all of us our concern with Philadelphia has been the head coach. I don't know if it's really ever been the talent. It's been the head coach. And I think that's where you're comparing Budenholzer to Doc Rivers. Now, is Budenholzer that much more elite than Doc Rivers? Maybe, but you could say they're kind of even. But there's one thing I do want to say I was wrong on. Like, I think because Drew Holiday was with the Pelicans, wasn't he? I think when he got traded to Milwaukee. I was just like, God, 3 first-round picks for Drew Holiday. I was wrong. It should have been like 8. It should have been like 8 first-round.
Like that was a fleece. Baby. It was an all-in trade, man. They had to call. That trade legit won them a championship.
They have, you could argue they have a big 3. Like Drew Holiday is not just a star. He's a big 3, part of that big 3 with Middleton. Like they are legitimate stars within their own
this year,
right.
especially.
And Drew, what separates him from Chris, even though Chris is the guy that can definitely go get bucks on the offensive side. Drew is going to lock up your best guard. He's just going to do it. And if you put him on maybe like a guy like Jaylen Brown or somebody like that, a guy that's a little bit taller than him, he can still bother him.
He guard wings.
So it's just kind of like that's invaluable. Like you can't, that type of guy in a playoff series, you just can't push that to the side. And Drew's not a bum on the offensive end. Like he can go down and get in the post. I've seen him go in the post around, look for a pass out, don't see a pass out, and then just get to the bucket, get an and one. Like he can do that. So that's going to be a knockdown drag out. I just think the matchup between Embiid and Giannis, if Embiid is on his game like he's on now, like they don't like, all due respect to Brook Lopez, I don't think he's going to be able to handle Embiid like that. And then just with the depth of scores, you're just matching guys up with guys. I don't think the Bucks go 4 deep because who could you say is, I guess, the Bucks' 4th guy? Like, I don't know. Grayson Allen. I mean, maybe he's the guy that could go
Pat
for another
Connaughton.
18 points. Who knows?
Yeah,
Pat Connaughton. I don't know. One of those guys maybe could. Bobby Portis maybe could be a guy.
Oh, Bobby Portis.
True.
Bobby Portis.
Yeah.
Got that mid-range.
So it could be a Tobias Harris, Bobby Portis shootout in Game 6. Who knows? But I'm liking what the 76ers look like right now. I don't want to give up on Boston, but they're Ime Udoka not being there is, we always talk about coaching. I just say coaching in the NBA doesn't really matter, but I think it does. They just seem like they're Tatum or bust. Like that. I don't know if you guys watched the Utah game. Like, why is Grant Williams getting a play drawn up for him to get like the last shot to win? Like, wait, what? I saw that. Like, Jason Tatum, I think, was behind like the half court line, like just sitting there watching it. Like he was just like, okay, whatever. It's like, what? Like, is that the best play you got? So that I watched that and I was like, I don't know if I trust him in the playoff series. So I don't know. I like the way the Sixers are playing, and sometimes it's just about like, if Embiid gets the MVP this year, which he's on the track to, like it could just be destiny. Like it could just be destiny for him to get to the finals and hopefully win it.
He gets banged around though in the playoffs, man. Every single time that Embiid
he got to stay healthy.
I feel like he gets fatigued towards the end of the year, man. A lot on his shoulders, burden-wise. To your point, Zoo, you got Casper the Ghost on Harden, man. It's going to be all on Embiid, and I think he's just going to get worn out.
Tyrese and Tobias got to carry Harden if he's going to fade.
Exactly. You're saying he put up Shaq numbers this year, man? Shaq is lucky to have had Kobe there in that three-peat because there was no way, Shaq could have just done it all by himself. Even when he was at the Magic, he had Penny Hardaway to rely on if he needed it.
He's always had a guard.
If you can't get one of your two guards going, and I'm not talking about Tobias Harris there on the wing, man. I'm talking about Maxey and Harden. This team's not going to they're going to struggle more than I think we're giving them credit for. But Embiid's still having an MVP year, man. So, Zoo, I think your bet's safe.
Oh, man. I hope it's safe, man. Joel Embiid, MVP, cash it. Paolo Banchero, Rookie of the Year, cash it, baby. Let's go. Let's get it done, Embiid. Finish strong, man. Finish strong, man. All you got to do is average 30 and 10 and win some games, man. That's all you got to do. Win 10 more games,
Don't Jokic and Embiid, they got a game coming up, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, you better win that one.
Yeah,
Last impression, man. Last impressions matter.
You got to get that.
Last impressions matter.
We're definitely tuned in. I think there's maybe 11 or 10 games left in the NBA season, so we're going to be, especially with the West, we're going to be seeing how the play-in shapes out and see all the storylines that come with that. So make sure you guys follow bullheaded_pod. Make sure you also listen to us on all the DSPs, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok as well. Bullheaded_pod for TikTok, Quantron Knows for YouTube. And for me, Zoo, and P. Bush, we are out.